Disney classics, original shows, documentaries, and more. There's a new streaming service in town.
We're Andrea and Patty, and we are now streaming Disney Plus. Hey y'all, I am Patty from NoGuiltFangirl.com and the No Guilt Disney podcast. You can find me on all socials at No Guilt Life.
And I'm Andrea with ThemeParkParents.com and JustIsA4letterWord.com. You can find me at Andrea Updike on all socials or at ThemeParkParents.
All right, so today we are going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that's being a Gen Xer.
Yes, the best generation.
The best generation. Andrea and I are both Gen X's, and while we don't hate on millennials or hate on the baby boomers, let's be real, y'all. We know where it's at, and it's right here with Gen X parents. Okay, and
no arguments here.
No arguments, right? And so part of being a Gen X parent is it is our duty to show our children some of these shows that we grew up on. Not all of these were made. I think they're all the ones that I wrote down. Everything's made in my lifetime, but they're not necessarily 80s and 90s. Some of them were actually 70s or 60s, but I remember very well my parents showing them to me.
Yeah.
And it sticking with my head in my upbringing as a young Gen Xer. So I added those to my list. For example, things like the original Parrot Trap is on my list. Anywho, we thought
that's top of my list.
Is it? Okay. Well, we'll talk about that one in just a second. So we made these lists of our favorite Gen X Disney Plus available movies. So if you are like us and you want a little nostalgia, your own personal nostalgia for your childhood, but you want to bring it and show it to your kids, we have some recommendations. But I think first we got to kick off with a little bit of a warning, because we have each of us have a couple of movies that we kind of mentioned off mic. The parents need to be aware of. So if we remember, Disney Plus is PG-13 and below. Right? They definitely are specifically only putting shows on this platform that are going to be, for the most part, fairly family friendly.
But not always.
Well, if you remember the 80s, right?
Yep.
What was passed off as family friendly then isn't so much family friendly now for a lot of different reasons in a lot of different ways. And I think we could go into a really big deep dive on some of those thoughts at another time. But I pulled out, for example, the movie that I'm using as my example movie is Splash. Splash is the mermaid movie with Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks. This was Tom Hanks's first movie, y'all. I mean, baby Tom Hanks. He's
Who doesn't love?
Adorable. Yeah. And what I liked about this movie is up until this came out, I only knew him as a comedian. I knew him from, Saturday Night Live type stuff and from Bosom Buddies and that kind of thing. So I knew him as the over-the-top kind of just total jokey, haha comedian kind of guy. In Splash, it's still generally a comedy and it's still mostly funny, but there's some very sweet moments, and there's some you could see young Tom getting a little bit of his acting chops in this movie. However, when this movie originally came out, it was PG. Y'all, this is not a PG movie. And I know you mentioned one too, Andrea. What were you talking about?
So the one we actually did rewatch this already with the kids, or I did, Three Musketeers.
That one,
which Chris O'Donnell, love the movie, but it has a lot of sexiness in this movie, a lot of cleavage, a lot of innuendo.
Definitely.
Just things that, I mean, for the most part, it probably went right over my kids' heads. But I've noticed, as I've been sort of looking for a theme, what is the shift? Why are they so different? And for me, and maybe you've noticed something different, but it seems like in the 80s, early 90s, a lot of sex and scantily clad women and just those themes were way more than they are now. But now there just seems to be a lot more language and cursing
Yeah,
You know, I feel like that's the shift. There's less sex, but more language. And back then there was like more sex and less language.
that's actually a really interesting point to make. And I agree with you. I definitely think, I know Me Too movement is a big deal and has just come, and we are still far from fixing all of that. However, even just the idea of how women were portrayed and how they were used in some of these
Mm-hmm.
movies back in the 80s, we've come a long way, baby. Like they've made some changes, not in every movie, not in every franchise, not in everything. I'm not trying to say that, but yeah, for sure. I mean, in Splash, you get a naked Daryl Hannah, y'all.
Ugh, just right out of the gate.
All right, out of the gate. And that's just, you definitely, if this movie was remade, it wouldn't go exactly that route. I'm 1,000% sure there would be a lot of changes that director Ron Howard would do if he was to remake this movie. So anyway, those are
Yeah.
just some thoughts we wanted to throw out there to give you a
Yep.
heads up for Gen X parents. Some of these movies you might want to revisit before you watch it with your kids. Okay.
Yeah. When I'm sitting there watching Three Musketeers during the scene where they're in this pub or whatever they're called back in those days, having a conversation about how to score your first wench, essentially.
Wow.
I'm like, and I don't know how much of this is being absorbed by my children. Let's get through this scene really quickly. Forgot about this one.
That's what that fast forward button is for.
And I gotta say, my son, my oldest, my 11-year-old, had just read Three Musketeers, and he hated this movie because it was so different from the book. He's like, that's not how D'Artagnan is. That's not this. That's not. He was so mad. He was like, I thought this was going to be like the book. And I'm like, it's just a funny movie. And boy, that one did not go over well. So I still love the movie. I still remember it very fondly, but just, time affects our memories, I think. In some cases, we need to, like you said, revisit before sharing them with our children.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that being said, let's first talk about the Parent Trap. And if you guys remember, there's two versions out there. There is the original Parent Trap, which was made, I think, in 1961, and then there was
the wrong one. And then the wrong one.
There was the Lindsay Lohan version, which was made in 1998. I don't know. I actually really liked that one. I'm not saying it's better than the original Parent Trap. I definitely will tell my kids go watch that one first. But I liked Lindsay Lohan at that age. She was cute. She's so talented. I thought she was adorable. She's really she's kind of gone off the rails in some ways, but I really enjoyed her in that stage. So
yes, and I actually also really love Emma Thompson, and so I appreciated her role in the movie as the mom. And the original, of course, is the one that I watched as a kid on my television over and over and over. I don't even know how many times I've seen it. It's just one of my favorite movies of all time in general. But I don't hate the remake. It's actually really cute.
Yeah, it is cute. But yeah, definitely. I remember a Parent Trap, my mom sitting me down and being like, oh, we have to watch this, Patty. You will love it. And she was not wrong. It completely captured my attention and I loved it. And I think from the Parent Trap, after that, she was like, oh, well, if you like that, you'll also like the Patty Duke Show. And so we went she had to find it. I can't remember, what channel it would play in reruns on or whatever, but she found me that. And so I got it was the whole idea of the split screens and duplicating the same actress playing both roles. I thought that was the coolest movie magic back in the day. So, that definitely Parent Trap is on the list. Something else that I think has to be on the list, and again, this is I missed it, but everybody loves this movie, and I still to this moment haven't watched it. So all of you from the 90s are going to come after me with pitchforks and say, how dare you poser. But a Goofy movie.
I haven't seen it. So, well, that's not true. I've seen parts of it because I know my kids have watched it at some point. But I have not sat and watched the whole thing. I'm with you. I missed the boat on that one. It was just a little bit after.
Yeah. But it's one of these that I think the first time I ever saw it was somebody dressed as I don't know, in the yellow suit. I don't know. It's
Max.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Max. It was Goofy, like in the yellow Photon Goofy. I don't know who it is. Galaxy. I don't know. But he dressed like that for a Ren Disney race. And
Oh, okay.
everybody was losing their minds about how awesome this was, like Power something. I don't know.
Yes, I know.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yes,
and people
yes.
just lost their minds. And so I'm like, wait, what is this? How do I not know everything about everything Disney? And I don't understand this reference. So ever since then, it's been on my radar of I need to watch that if I can ever get my hands on it. Well, guess what, guys? It's on Disney Plus. So
It's on Disney Plus.
it's going to happen. That is going to be something that I'm going to have to get my hands on and see. You mentioned your son watching the Love Bug movies. That's also on my list of fun Gen X kind of things. We grew up with Herbie and we loved Herbie.
I love the Love Bug. And, Punch Bug. I don't know if your family does that. My kids are really into it. They still do it. And so, I don't know. It's just, they're fun. And who doesn't love like a car that has a mind of his own? That's just, that movie is timeless. It's
absolutely.
All the movies.
Another on here that I think needs probably a preview, but any Sandra Bullock fans out there? Of course, everybody loves Sandra Bullock. But While You Were Sleeping is on Disney Plus now. And I just remember that as a very sweet rom-com. And again, Sandra Bullock. Right?
Loved that movie. I absolutely loved that movie. I still love it. In fact, I did a list of my favorite Christmas movies on Disney Plus back last year, and that was on my list because it's a Christmas movie, but it's also just a sweet rom-com movie. You don't have to just watch it at Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that one. Another one we watched as a family right when Disney Plus came out, and we've talked about it before, but I wanted to mention it again as a Gen X, and this was one I'm wondering if you've seen it yet. The Rocketeer.
No, I haven't seen it. You have to watch it. I know. And I think, guys, anybody that's been listening to this podcast since we started, that might have been the first movie that we both said, we need to watch this movie.
Yes.
I still have not. I am failing in but and in fact, the other night, I was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was still up because there is no time anymore, right?
Who sleeps? Yeah, no. I don't even know what day it is right now.
No one needs to be anywhere these days. And so I was up until like 1. And I did stop on it and pause and thought I should watch this because it's on my list of movies that I really want to watch because everybody loves it so much. But it was 1 a.m. And I was like, no, be smart. Like, put this off for another day. But yeah, I've got to get that one in. Okay, so it was good. So you get that recommendation?
I loved it again, and the kids loved it, especially
awesome.
My youngest. And he was like, "Are there any?" You can tell he likes a movie if he asks if there are any like toys or Legos for it.
Got it.
He's like, "Can you look and see if there's any Legos for it?" So
another Gen X movie that is this is one of those movies I have seen more times than I can count. Anytime I'm scrolling and it's showing, I stop and watch it. Even if I only watch, 15, 20 minutes of it, I will stop because I love it so much. And that's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, I love that movie.
Right?
I love that movie. I fell in love with Heath Ledger.
Oh, who didn't? I mean,
every time I watch it, I fall in love with him all over again.
Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, they were so great in this movie. And
I love that that's on Disney Plus. I didn't realize it was on there.
It's on Disney Plus. And if you are also a Shakespeare lover or English major back in the day, this is, basically playing off of one of Shakespeare's stories. And your kids will never catch that and never know. I mean, they might because Shakespeare is like woven into the story, but it's not overtly Shakespearean, right? And so they might not realize until if you watch it with them now, and then when they're in high school and they read it, they're going to be like, wait a minute, I know this. This is 10 Things I Hate About You. And bam, you just made this pop culture connection and they'll remember you.
I love it. I love it. I love that movie. Another movie you mentioned, just kind of, if you see it on TV, you stop and watch it. And I will watch this in any iteration. I don't care which one it is. I love them all. And that is Freaky Friday.
You read my mind. Yeah. There's 3 versions of Freaky Friday on Disney Plus, guys. So pick one.
They're all good.
They're
watch
all
them
good.
all.
They are all good. I mean, again, Jamie Lee Curtis, guys. Can she do no wrong? I love her. She is one of my, I know she's not Gen X, but she is one of the actresses that growing up Gen X, I've loved everything Jamie Lee has ever done. So
she's just so fun. She's so fun. And I actually really liked the new one. The new, I say, is from 2018.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really cute. They did a really great job. There's musical numbers that I liked. got to throw that new Disney in there with the musical numbers.
Well, speaking of timeless stuff, hello, Muppet movies.
Yeah. Oh, man. When we were on a Disney cruise recently, I guess it was last year, all my kids wanted to do was watch Muppet movies. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they have everything on the ship. And we were watching all the old ones, the new ones. It was just anytime we were in the room, a Muppet movie was playing.
Yep. I mean, yeah. And there's a lot of them. And I honestly don't remember there being a bad Muppet movie. They were all clever and smart and fun and had some singing and dancing in there.
Yep.
So yeah, I threw that on my list of things that I need my kids to get into, please and thank you.
Yes. Now, one that I think should be required viewing, but you'll want to review it for your own kids first because there are some themes that might be a little scary. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, goodness, yeah.
I think this one should be required because it was one of the first movies that they did the whole cartoon and human kind of interacting with each other in a movie. And I feel like, especially if you have a budding artist, it's really cool to just see on the screen. The movie's good, but there are some, you got sexy Jessica Rabbit, you've got melting faces at one point. So take a look at it first, but that to me is a classic 80s Gen X movie that, it's one of those moments in time. Like it shifted the whole movie genre.
It did. It's not one of my favorites. I never, even when I saw it in the theater, I didn't love it. Mm-hmm. But I do think I agree with you from that perspective of looking at the history of film in a way. Like this is an important movie from that. And again, it could just be me that I didn't love it. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I didn't like that a lot of people love. So y'all can ignore me for that if you need to. But I did love Knives Out, Andrea, and everybody should. And you're still wrong for that. And you will never live that down. I'm going to bring that up on every podcast that I can.
I will proudly display my disdain for that movie. And listen, the thing is, I wanted to love that movie. I was so excited to see it. And I got even more excited when I heard all of the hype. And when we finally sat down to watch it.
Yeah. Whatever you're
Loved the colors, loved the music, loved the wardrobe, loved the sweaters, okay? I just didn't like the story. I was like, oh, it's like this. Okay. I mean, that's literally what my reaction was. And then when it was over, I didn't say anything because, I don't like to just throw out my opinion. I like to read the room first. And my husband's like, so I have some thoughts about this one. And I was like, me too. And we were totally on the same page. So I think, honestly, it was death by hype. I think it was so hyped and we waited a little too long to see it. If we had seen it first, like before everybody was loving it so much, we might have had a different reaction. Maybe.
All right. Well,
but I doubt it.
I've watched this movie 6 times and counting. All right. And it's only been out since November. Anyway, and it has nothing to do with Disney Plus, but I just have to give Andrea a hard time because when I saw her post on that, it broke my heart and I almost broke up with her over it, guys, because I am that serious about my Knives Out.
But that's how brave I am in the face of conflict. I am not afraid to take a stand for what I believe in.
This is true, and that is what I ultimately decided that I love about you so much, Andrea. All right, guys, we are going to wrap this one up because Knives Out has absolutely everything to do with Disney Plus. But we do hope that if you've got any other ideas for Gen X parents that shows they need to watch their kids, come tell us about it.
We need ideas. We need everything we can get right now with our kids home. I don't know if we're even going back to school this year.
We're not. We're done.
Send us your lists. I know. We have a very small sliver of hope still, but I don't think it will last very long.
Yeah, no, we're done. They've called it here in Virginia. So,
yeah.
All right, guys, get on that Disney Plus. There's a lot to see out there, and there's a lot of fun ways to fill your time right now. We will be back soon. So, see y'all real soon.
Bye-bye.